With the rise of like AI and deepfakes,
Yeah.
have you had to change some of your processes with more people being easily faked through deepfakes? I mean, I think it takes like 1 minute of video now to
Yeah.
create like a pretty viable impersonation.
Yeah, I mean, we were always a fan of minimizing your digital footprint. In fact, perhaps doing this podcast goes against my better judgment. Um, uh, but yeah, I mean, like honestly, like personally, there's like a struggle between like trying to like be sort of like living your values and not putting out content, but also like wanting to sort of, bring more attention to this problem. I think it starts with great privacy, right? Like do not be putting content up unnecessarily if there's no value. Now, if you're a business leader and you have to go to a conference or do an earnings call, right? Like, what am I going to tell you? Don't do an earnings call because it marginally increases your personal cyber risk. Like, no, that goes back to us knowing who the individual is and managing risks that are, reasonable. I would also say that we have had to do more education around, maybe to Mike's earlier question about family members. That is a super, super common attack you're seeing where a phone number is spoofed and someone calls and says, I'm in trouble, I need help. And it sounds like them and they're referencing real information that they've pulled using OSINT. So I would say for us, it's become more of a focus. I still don't think it, like cracks probably the top 10, like, sort of most common and impactful cyber threats we're seeing, but it's certainly one of the fastest growing. There's no question.
I have a question before we get too far away. You
Yeah.
mentioned you're talking about how you prefer you like some people are on multiple types of technology or ecosystems, and
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had a preference for people to be spread out across ecosystems or to be in
Yeah.
a
It's a
single ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a great question. This security principle that applies is too many eggs in one basket is not a good thing. And so I think for us, like the distribution is really important. I think the example we commonly see is where like the major tech platforms try and own passwords. I think like that's kind of like the prime example we like do try to encourage against, whereby say it's Google and they've done such a great job of integrating into Chrome over all these years. If your Gmail account is compromised, you really want to give them like the janitor key ring for the rest of your life. You would already be in a world of trouble. Okay. And I think for us, we think about how to make attackers' lives difficult, and certainly that would necessitate some separation. Now, again, I think going back to knowing your audience, there are some people who are resistant to it and they're kind of happy with the way things are. For us, it's helping them make great privacy and security adjusted decisions while educating them about these sorts of risks. I would say like my blanket statement though is I would prefer you not be like overly locked into a single ecosystem. And it doesn't matter. Like I think those companies are incredibly sophisticated from a security standpoint. But again, I would the same way like a money manager, I think would recommend you keep checking accounts and brokerage accounts kind of spread out at different institutions. For us, it's the exact same principle.
Are there certain things that you require of your customers? So, for example,
Yeah, it's a good question.
when I think of like the biggest bang for your buck, right? It's email because
Yeah,
everything is tied to your email. So do
yeah.
you require MFA for email or any particular processes that you have?
I would say that we have never gotten to a point with someone who we were working with that we felt that they were not playing ball enough and that they were too risky. I think the more common is like lack of cooperation as far as like making time for it. And like we definitely see some bad habits that we know exist, like linger for a while, but never like outright refusal. Um, like we don't, again, like I wouldn't say we've ever like quote unquote fired a customer for that reason. I think it just filters, right? Like you're not gonna sort of sign up for this type of partnership, right? Which is how we think about it in a lot of ways. Super high trust, like we're here to help you. We maintain a super high integrity relationship with vendors. Like we don't take payment from companies to promote products. We want to give you what's best with cyber health first in mind. So number one value. I think it'll eventually happen where someone's doing it because they want an emergency line to call and then they'll sit down. They won't do anything, make any changes. We'll see them posting content that's, very, very revealing. We'll send alert after alert after alert that we don't, this is increasing the risk for X, Y, and Z reasons. But I wouldn't say I feel that's our job to like be the parent for these people. It's more like for as much friction as you're willing to endure, how do I make sure it's as easy for you to get?
Do you have like some kind of monitoring software? Like
Yeah.
you can dodge this question if you need to. But I was just thinking like Are you having to constantly query and do like OSINT or open source intelligence gathering, or like do you have an agent on their phone or on their laptop or whatever to kind of like proactively identify these issues to you?
I mean, maybe you want to cut this just because it might not like answer your question like directly, but I would differentiate between OSINT and on-device.
Yeah.
So we are doing continuous OSINT. There is certainly a human being who's very intimately involved in the initial assessment, right? It's of course like software agent. Okay, you're using a lot of different databases to consolidate information. Whatever, we'll leave it at that. Like we do get a lot of help from non-human related things to conduct the initial research. That said, we are continuously scouring the open internet for new mentions of people's names, right? New mentions of their PII. So, for example, we work with public companies where executives are in earnings reports, right? Like we're of course going to automatically pick those up and feed those into our monitor. For them, they actually can access all the different mentions our system picks up. Like we have a live monitor where they can see all of those things. Some of those things carry no marginal risk. For example, if the CEO of Bank X is in an earnings call that company is he's still the CEO of Bank X, we'll pick up the monitor, right? We'll flag the mention, but we're not going to send an alert about that, right? Like that's, I wouldn't think that's a very good threshold for alerting. But critically, we do respect privacy of our members. We do not install software on like their home network and such to alert them of certain things. I think there are companies that will do that. For us, I actually don't think that's what people want. I think there's a lot of responsibility that would come with a model like that. That's probably more appropriate for the enterprise. I think for us, like we prefer the sort of the more of the opt-in type of things where we want to stack the deck in your favor. We want to set up monitoring that doesn't increase the risk. But I think the type of relationship that you're talking about for us was a bridge too far. And in the design of all of our products, they really keep that sort of privacy by default. Like model in mind.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. When you were talking, I was just trying to imagine like how much data you're having to sift through, right?
A lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot. It's a lot. And especially for people who are in the media a lot. Like
yeah.
they can generate hundreds of unique mentions per month, hundreds. And it is a lot. I think there's a balance between being thorough and being, I think, smart about what you're spending analyst time on to actually dig into the details with a human being beyond, what's possible from an automated standpoint today. I think, again, like to mimic what attackers are doing, how we think about things from a threat perspective, I think that's how they think about it. They are using automation and AI to automate certain core functions of their business, including prospecting, right? Including intelligence gathering, including, signal recognition, et cetera. We think we should be doing the same thing. It's not to say that we're a pen testing firm or anything like that. You're not engaging in that type of like active measures. But at the same time, we do view it as our core responsibility to make sure our members have the capacity to be as aware of their attack surface as an attacker. And for us, that can be like a very, very immense problem for an individual to stay on top of every single thing that's about them. So we sort of take that as our responsibility to consolidate it, alert when necessary, sort of make those links available to the consolidated. We actually issue reports every month that give them every single available online mention about themselves.
That's cool.
Are y'all monitoring breaches and stuff for your clients as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's another thing that again, like going back to the healthcare stuff and talking about more the problem that kind of CISOs face is that when their executives are in breaches, they will often get these kind of like vanilla legalese letters from these companies. And it doesn't really tell them what the problem is, right? Like it doesn't really tell them what to do. I think for us, we view communication as a core competency for what we do, which is how do you distill a somewhat complicated event into very, very simple sections, and our data breach alerts are the exact same format. What happened? What data was exposed? What should you do next? Those are the only three things that, right? You give them a brief synopsis of what happened. They don't probably care about the technical details, exactly what of their information was detected, and like, here's exactly what you need to do next. Sometimes there's a explicit thing to change. Other times it's you should be alert to a certain piece of information that's now been exposed that wasn't previously exposed, and it can be used against you in social engineering or, it's a key, call it security question at the bank or something like that. Like for us, like it's very important for people to be aware of what's public.